Well, I can understand.
Yeah.
What's going on that you had it
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good morning, members of the media. Thank you for joining us once again. Press conference, 12th September. This morning on the panel we have our leader of the party and our former chairman and still caretaker for St. John, Senator Vincent Roberts. I'm sorry, George Vincent. Right, and will be going first. So I will now hand over to him to go.
Members of the press, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming to weekly. My aim is to talk about two issues, two very substantive issues to follow and report on and investigate further. The first one is the transparency and accountability of this government. The other is the state of agriculture, recommendations as how we should address the issues, because the state of agriculture is very depressing and the kinds of actions that we see are not helping of agriculture in this country today. The first substantive issue is the government's lack of transparency and accountability to the taxpayers of this country. This manifests in their reporting the government and the statutory corporation and state entities, enterprises. This is reflected in their reporting of how they spend the government's money. Firstly, I must indicate that I have been appointed of the Public Accounts Committee, and I have acted in this position for the last 3 years. And the Public Accounts Committee have been able to examine books of the public accounts up to 2011. Accounts have been presented to the auditors, and the auditors did their audits and presented it to Parliament. So the government accounts that have been presented by the Accountant General to the Auditor General are up to 2011, which the Public Accounts Committee have examined. Up till today, we are awaiting, and we are the auditors, government auditors, are awaiting the accounts accounts from the Accountant General's Office for the year 2012, 2013, 2014, and 2015. Important because has been stipulated in the Public Finance Management Act number 17 of 2015. In section 66(1) says that the government must present its accounts to the auditors 6 months after the end of the financial year. Section 66(2) indicates that if you are late, you need to ask for an extension. 3 months may be given. And section 67(5) says the minister shall submit to the parliament no later than 7 days after receiving the audited accounts. My friends, is not acceptable. This, the public must ask for an account of the spending by this government of our hard-earned taxpayers' money. This is at the side of the government, and the responsibilities are with the Accountant General, who must present to the Director of Audit. On the side of the public bodies and statutory corporation, the same Public Finance Management Act 17 of 2015 indicates that for every statutory corporation and government body, public body, must be done. Section 74 of the Public Finance Management Act again says within 3 months must provide and present their account to the auditors. The auditors must within 3 months audit the statements, and the minister then must lay them in the parliament. Terrible situation with our public bodies and statutory corporations. I must commend the 3 statutory corporations did their act and have presented their reports in a timely manner, and to date have presented the reports of the year 2015. And these are in the Grenada Authority for the Regulation of Financial Institutions, the Grenada Solid Waste Management Authority is the Grenada Development Bank. As indicated in the Act, they have 3 months, 9 months, 6 months on one way and 3 months on the other to present their books and lay to Parliament. We are in September, and these 3 institutions have complied to those who take the laws of Grenada seriously. Other 21 or so statutory corporations have blatantly disregarded the laws of Grenada, have not submitted reports. Some have done for 2013, 2012. 3 of the major statutory corporations are in blatant defiance of the laws of Grenada. The National Lottery Authority funding for all kinds of projects around Grenada comes submitted to the Parliament a report or an audited report of their books, 2009. Authority, formerly the Grenada Board of Tourism, has not presented reports. We are not saying they have not done it, but the law says that you must present it before the Parliament. My research within the Parliament is that they have not presented the GTA since 2008. The other one is the Grenada Airports Authority accounts since 2012. My friends, we must call on the government, first of all, to show the example and account to the people by presenting the audited statements of the public accounts to the Parliament, after which it may be examined by the people. We call on all statutory corporations to obey the laws of Grenada, what the law says, and present your accounts, audited accounts, so that it may then be examined closely by the authority and by the public and by the Public Accounts Committee. Substantive issue, I urge you to follow up and to help us to push the government and the statutory corporations into obeying the laws of our land. Secondly, the scant regard for agriculture in this country. I want to particularly highlight the plight of the citrus farmers. Our citrus farmers who now have to cut down fields because of a disease called citrus greening disease. Citrus disease in the world, in Grenada, but 3 or so years ago came into Grenada, and I want to highlight this after I talk of agriculture briefly. Agriculture in Grenada is going through a really rough time and don't seem to care too much about the farmers and the livelihood of the farmers. Firstly, the report of the Cocoa Association says that we have a serious reduction in cocoa production in 2015 over 2014. People are throwing their hands in the air and claiming that it is climate change. What are you doing to address the situation? Getting on the defensive. I want to indicate that we are in September. $500,000 budgeted for the farm labor support program, and today a farmer has received any assistance from the farm labor support program. The youths are not attracted to the industry. Little or no support, technical or otherwise, are given to agriculture. Is being fed and very little action. The other issue I want to talk more about today is the increased infestation of pests and disease so far in citrus. This closely the issues of the technical staff. We have learned that the most professional and head of the pest management department has been transferred to the Ministry of Health. Reports of folks at the airport being instructed to ignore plants and phytosanitary conditions for stuff coming into the country. In the parliament, issues of seeds, source of seeds in particular, being brought into the country, which has been illegal. What is happening is that I am convinced, we do not have the facts, the proof, but I am convinced that the lapsed phytosanitary system that we have pests and infestation into the country and are wreaking havoc on our farmers. It is difficult for farmers to make a living. I want to focus a little on citrus farmers, simply because citrus farmers, citrus, after Hurricane Ivan, just over 11 years ago, 12 years ago, sorry. And the reason why they went into citrus is because citrus is one of the most resilient crops against hurricane and high winds. That should another one come, I would be all right. But they did not tell themselves that a disease would come, would not get help to address it. So, a friend of mine planted 6 acres of soursop in the Palmis area. He has had good production until 3 years ago, when the signs began that, and he was doing everything. He sought help from the ministry and the pest management unit, but samples were taken from his crop, or sent away. Now he has been waiting on a response from the pest control department. To date, he has cut down approximately 2 acres of the 6 acres. His farm has had to reduce a production, having no help in addressing the issues. This is typical of farmers in this country, where the technical and financial support coming from the government very scarce, and agriculture being the lifeblood of the Grenadian economy needs to be taken seriously. To follow up with this farmer, who is Mr. Charlie Muller, and he farms in Palmis more than 10 acres of land, and as I said, he has 6 acres of citrus, which he has to cut because of that situation. You can imagine the financial stress too, and the financial stress that other farmers are going through, the lack of support, technical and otherwise. I want to, by making some recommendations, the government, particularly the Ministry of Agriculture seriously, and provide the necessary technical and professional support since agriculture is our lifeblood, to be the base, the pillar on which we build. Let us not ignore and destroy our agriculture. We know that there are very few Imani workers within the agriculture sector. And recommend to the government that we focus some of our young people professional farming, expose them with experienced farmers and try to help them in agriculture seriously. I want to recommend that the government treats professional staff at the Ministry of Agriculture and other areas with respect and stop arbitrarily transferring professionally trained experts in their field to other areas so that there is continuity and there is a level of professionalism to support the agriculture industry and all other industries, particularly the productive sector. I want to end by recommending to the government to provide subsidies for our hard-working farmers. Nowhere in the world is agriculture not subsidized. Farmers and the milk farmers of Europe are being subsidized. The wheat farmers and the corn farmers of Canada and the US are being subsidized. And we are asking our farmers to increase your production without providing and financial support. I want to make a plea to provide a grant, however small it may be, maybe $1 million, to the Grenada Cooperative Nutmeg Association. Farmers are accustomed to bonuses at Christmas, and we use these bonuses as our savings to reinvest in the farm. And over the last 2 years, farmers have been getting nothing. As a result, we cannot invest further in agriculture, buy seeds and tools and all of this. I am asking to the powers that be to provide some subsidy, GCNA, so that farmers may have, for a pleasant Christmas, to reinvest in the farms that we have so far. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Senator Vincent. I just want to make a few comments, please. A couple of issues. I think at the outset, let me say good morning to each and every member of you, the members of the media here this morning, and to how pleased we are that you can be with us today. At the outset, I wish to join with Senator Vincent in raising concerns about the importation of foreign plant material into the country. We have spoken about the situation with the citrus. From what we are told, this particular fungus is alien to Grenada, which means that somebody has brought it into Grenada. We must not forget what has happened with us here in Grenada with the millibug. We must not forget what has happened here in Grenada with the fruit fly. So these are not new experiences. These are things that have affected us in the past. And when we speak about this, we must not just speak in a sterile way. We must understand the direct link between the importation of these materials, the negative effect it can have on the agricultural sector, on our food security, our nutrition security, on the livelihood of our farmers and our agricultural workers, those who depend on agriculture for their survival. So once you have a situation where these foreign pests and diseases come into the country in an uncontrolled way, it is going to have very serious repercussions for all of us here in Grenada. Just talking to a farmer last Friday, I learned that 200 breadfruit plants had been brought into the country. He did not say from what particular source it was, what particular country, but all of these things raise very serious questions. And I think it's important for us to take the opportunity to call on the Minister responsible for agriculture to think in this matter. And to the extent that these reports that are coming forward are accurate, immediate steps be taken to address this problem, because it can have implications for all of us. This is not a political issue. It's really just a national issue that must be spoken to by all concerned. The second thing that I want to just offer a quick comment on as well has to do with a point that was mentioned in passing by Senator Vincent, again having to do with the treatment of public workers, which I believe, again, we must speak to, because it will affect the quality to the extent that public workers are mistreated or abused or disrespected in any way. The effectiveness with which they deliver services to the public at large and the general operation and efficiency and the country for that matter. We must express our concern in particular reports of intimidation and bullying of public servants and the arbitrary, high-handed and vindictive manipulation of the public service. It has come to our attention that at a meeting with the staff of the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries some weeks ago, a professional concern that was raised by one of the senior officers there, Mr. Paul Graham. The Prime Minister is reported to have been beating his chest and pounding on the desk in anger, claiming that he was in charge and that the buck stops with him. This, we were told, happened much to the shock and surprise of all those in attendance, the ministry staff, that this reaction was coming from the Prime Minister of Grenada. We are also advised that certain ministers of government go around ministries, sometimes not even the ministries that they are responsible for, but go around ministries announcing that certain public servants have to go and demanding that permanent secretaries that are responsible to get them out of here. We are told that among the persons who were the target of these outbursts was Mr. Graham himself, Mr. Rennie, the senior fisheries officer, Mr. Baldio in the fisheries department. We understand that these officers were recently summarily transferred departments from their positions in the service. Mr. Graham from his position as Senior Pest Control Officer, Mr. Rennie from the position of Senior Fisheries Officer, and Mr. Baldio from a senior position in the Fisheries Department as well. In the case of Mr. Rennie and Mr. Baldio, that police were sent to search their homes. These developments, we don't know if it's true, but these developments, we believe they're happening, and they would mark a very serious departure from the norms of the service. It is therefore, it reminds us in fact of the ugly days of the past, of the 1970s, and I don't think that anybody really wants to have that situation in our country today. Under our constitution, the public service is answerable to the Public Service Commission, not to any minister of government. The responsibility to hire, the discipline workers, all rests in the hands of the Public Service Commission. And orders cannot be issued by ministers, issued by the Department of Public Administration, to punish officers or to intimidate officers or to threaten officers without first reporting any complaint. Any senior policymaker or administrator may have to the Public Service Commission in respect of any particular worker. So we have to express this concern. It's going to affect, if it's happening, the ability of public workers to do their jobs. And as far as we're concerned, public workers must be allowed to do their jobs in peace. And so I want to take this opportunity to publicly call on those who are in authority to ensure that these reports are investigated, that public workers are being bullied, intimidated, frightened, and threatened. Come to an end. That I want to raise, which is related to the issue of agriculture, has to do with what we consider to be the sad state of the Marketing and National Importing Board. We wish to register here again our concerns regarding the operations of the MNIB. The continuing reports of purchase of produce by the MNIB, the failure or inability to sell the produce, spoilage, and the dumping of large quantities of produce by the board. These reports coming both out of River Road and St. George's and from Grenville. If the reports we are hearing are correct, then perhaps as much as hundreds of thousands of dollars have been lost in spoilage each year. I spoke to one farmer a few days ago who reported to me his horror to personally witness tons of oranges being placed in a garbage truck, and when the compression device was employed, orange juice were falling off from the truck as the truck drove off. This is a farmer who sells oranges to the marketing board, telling me of this story. I would not call his name at the moment. It's a fact. It is a fact that this was reported to me by a very well-known and well-respected farmer, for that matter. This is an unacceptable situation, and it is unacceptable at very many different levels. First of all, the issue of dumping of food after it is spoiled cannot be justified under any conditions. If the food cannot be sold, then the board can give it to the schools to be used for the children. Many children go to school every day in need of meals. The marketing board can give that food. They can give food to the hospital. They need nutritional food, and of course, many of them can benefit. In consultation with the dietary and nutrition experts at the hospital, they can give an indication of what they have, what the hospital needs, and they can ensure that proper meals can be served to the hospitals. They can they can give some of the material to produce to the old age homes. They can give some of the material to the children's homes. They can even use this spoilage to feed animals. Give it to somebody who has pigs, so that we'll get some fat pigs, and those who eat meat and pork will enjoy some good pork or whatever, or barbecue pork. It would make sense, rather than destroying this stuff and throwing it away, somebody that can use in a productive way. I cannot believe what we are hearing. I mean, this is the first responsibility. This is happening at the time when I have spoken to at least one gentleman who has said to me that the marketing board is refusing to sell in produce. I was in New York just a couple of weeks ago. I spoke to the gentleman who is the largest importer of food in the Brooklyn area. Grenadian by birth, imports large quantities of food from Grenada. He tells me the marketing board is refusing to sell him produce. I cannot understand why. I have no reason to lie on the gentleman. He told me the marketing board is refusing. So how can the marketing board, whose principal responsibility is to assist the farmers, get stuff from the farmers and sell it locally, find markets for it locally and abroad, be refusing to sell the largest importer of produce? It seems to me to make absolutely no sense whatsoever. So this is a concern. And the fact of the matter is, this is a state-owned enterprise, yes? As Senator Vincent pointed out earlier, it is taxpayers' money that are being used to carry on this operation. There is clearly a crisis of management at the MNIB. We are hearing that the sugar that has been imported into Grenada through the MNIB is being purchased through a middleman. Whereas in the past, the marketing board used to buy this sugar directly from suppliers in Trinidad and in Guyana, we are hearing now that the middleman is buying the sugar and selling it to the marketing board at some kind of a profit. This makes, again, absolutely no sense because it increases the cost of sugar and makes it more difficult, because if the marketing board is paying a higher price for the sugar, then it will sell the sugar at that price, and it will affect the price at which ordinary Canadians can buy a pound of sugar. As a result of the decision by the marketing board to purchase that building in Grenville, to take in order to make that purchase, the board is now having serious difficulty to service the loan and even to purchase supplies from some of the farmers. They have apparently hired chefs and butchers to carry on a side show rather than focusing on the core business of the marketing board, which is really to find markets for the produce of the farmers. Nobody asked them to hire butchers. Nobody asked them to hire chefs. This is not about any kind of side show that's going on, right? What is important ultimately is that the primary responsibility for which the marketing board was set up was to ensure that the farmers do not face the indignity, spend their time producing food for our nation, and then be running around in little vehicles, in wheelbarrows and buckets, trying to sell this stuff, and sometimes being chased by the police when they are in locations that are considered to be non-vending areas. The farmers of the country must not be subjected to that kind of humiliation. We think it is wrong, and we're calling on the government, and in particular, we're calling on the Director of Audit, and audit into the operations of the Marketing and National Importing Board. We have said before that should nothing happen and should we form the government, we will restructure the marketing board so as to shift its primary focus, importation of agricultural inputs at decent, affordable costs and prices to the farmers and to the marketing of their produce locally and abroad. It cannot be, yes, the taxpayers are spending money on the marketing board. Some persons in there are getting big fat salaries, grandstanding, and at the end of the day, the farmers are paying the price for it, the taxpayers are paying the price for it. So this is an extremely important issue we want to highlight. And at this stage, we must say so, that, you know, at the end of the day, this is not about any individual, this is not about jobs for the boys and their brothers, this is about ensuring that find the market for the produce. Those are the comments that we want to offer today. If there are any particular questions, we'll be more than happy to take. Invite any questions?
Yes, asking a question. Senator Vincent? Yes, all is right. I don't know what you say. As chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, could you tell us how many persons make up that committee? And when last did the committee?
The Public Accounts Committee is appointed by the Parliament. The last meeting of the Public Accounts Committee, July or early August of this year. The members of the Public Accounts Committee are myself as chairman, Honorable Clifton Paul, and Honorable Tobias Clement, ventures in the government of the country.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. You mentioned that you have highlighted, you did indicate that there were 20 statutory bodies,
24 to be precise.
24, that have not complied.
No, as a total of 24.
No, I'm just trying to get the
Yes.
figures here. Those who have not complied with the act, which requires them to submit for auditing.
Yes, there, as I indicated, there are 3 who are in compliance. Okay?
Only 3.
Only 3.
So the next 21.
The others are at different stages of not complying. The worst of them are the Tourist Authority, the National Lotteries Authority, and the Grenada Airports Authority. The others are somewhere in between, who has presented 2012, who has presented 2013.
Okay. But you said they are all in breach of the act.
Yes, since you have not produced your report and have not asked for an extension time, you are in breach.
What are the consequences?
I have searched the act. There, sorry, let me get the act in. There is a section 84, sorry. Section there is a section on sanctions, okay, on the management. But I have searched the act and it is about sanctions, section 84. Almost all of what is here is sanctions to the accountable officer who may have breached and fraud and all of that kind of thing. This is allotted here, but there is no section that tells me that if the government has not put the statutory corporation has not sent the reports on time, what should be done to them.
But here you are asking the people to demand or to get to find out exactly or to ask him how we can get to know the state of accounts.
Yes.
And how government is spending it. And that's what I want to say, how government is spending the money. And if we know that, and we are just outside, then there is sanction.
Well, the reason why I'm here preaching it is because I want the press to get on the government corporations to have them meet their obligations. This is the voice we have. There is no sanctions. They probably could stay forever without sending it. But it is important that we press the minister, we press the board of directors of the corporations to get on with the business and produce their reports so that they can be examined and the people can understand how the people's taxpayers' monies are being spent. Thank you.
Yeah.
You mentioned that so far, the family was supported. Haven't received any benefit from such. Do you have any proof of this?
I do not know of. I have asked about farm labor, and they've said there is no farm labor support program
Who said so?
going on. The Ministry of Agriculture.
Okay.
You may verify it.
Okay. In relation to the increase in pests and diseases, you also mentioned concern with phytosanitary conditions. And illegal pests and diseases are allowed into the country. Are you placing the blame on the Bureau of Standards, the Ministry of Agriculture, and these persons?
Well, the gateway for diseases to enter the country are through the ports. And the Pest Control Management Unit have persons at the gates of entry. So the first responsibility to protect our farm produce and our crops is the pest and disease control.
You mentioned that the palm is farmer. Have you seen the devastation for yourself?
I've been there. And I want the press to go there and have a.
And you're certain that it is that pest?
Yes, he was told that it is citrus greening disease.
Okay. You mentioned the situation at MNIV, the state of MNIV, sugar issue, spoilage, and also the treatment of public officers. Do you have anything on file, anything that we can have? Do you have any proof? The spoilage, one, because it seems like second-hand information.
No, it is second-hand information. I do not work with the marketing board, but I'm quite sure that it is second-hand information. What we're saying is, these are reports that we had. I said I cut down to acres of land for second-hand information. But we share this information in the hope and in the expectation that the journalists, if we give you that lead, will make an inquiry and help us and share information.
A lot of the time we go to people with this second-hand information, and we're told that it is second-hand information and that we should come back to you with the issue, since you're saying that you should provide us with the proof.
Well, we can't provide you with the proof because we are not working at the marketing board. I can't tell you that I threw away 2 garbage trucks of oranges. I did. I trust that in this particular case, you might say it's the occupational hazard of the journalist. Some reports, some leads you get may bear fruit, some leads you get may not bear fruit. They may be true, something you hear may be rumors, but it is in the nature of your job, let me say so. You still investigate and see what's.
You mentioned the restructuring of the MNIB. That's a term that we've heard a lot of times. You said when the NDC, if the NDC is re-elected into office, it will look to restructure the MNIB. What will be done differently? I
have told you the objective. I will not spell out to the particular units that will be set up. There will be 2 objectives. First, to ensure that the primary function of the board becomes A, to import agricultural inputs from cheaper sources of same quality or better quality from cheaper sources for the farmers, so as to reduce the cost of agricultural inputs to the farmers. We see this as a primary responsibility. Second, to provide markets sale of agricultural produce. We do not see the sale of sugar or rice, the cutting of meat, and the ads about chefs and so on as the primary, as the core business of the marketing board. What we're saying is that's what we're going to bring.
What's different about his operations now as compared to when the NDC was in office? Because we've had a number of persons praising the MNIB for its work and its achievement over the past couple of years.
Well, I've simply pointed out to you what is reported as a problem. Yes, I can't tell you what is different from the MNIB today. I don't know what's going on inside the MNIB. I don't work there. I can only tell you that this issue of spoilage, right, has been reported more than once from St. George's, from St. Andrew. If it is true, it's a problem. And I can't even say it's true myself. But if it is true, it's a problem. Because it means that there's wastage. And produce that can otherwise be used for a more constructive or productive purpose is being wasted. So I would encourage you to please take a look and see whether it's true. And I will say further that, in the last 21 years in the history of this country, one government has been in office for 16 and a half, and one has been in office for 4.5 years. So, comparisons about NDC and NNP and what they do and what they don't do, the fact of the matter is, if you spend 16 years in office and I spend 4, you have a much longer chance and much bigger opportunity to solve the problem.
You mentioned in relation to the intimidation and bullying by government officials, particularly with the Paul Graham Justin Rennie Road. Second-hand information again. In terms of the naming of the officers, do you think that was responsible because it may expose them?
What would you consider to be first-hand in this case?
Well, at least you have a proof. Having proof of the intimidation.
Okay, but what would you consider to be first-hand information? You mean?
At least you in direct contact with the officers.
Who's present at the meeting? Would you say?
That's still second-hand.
So it is second-hand information, but I can tell you that I spoke with someone who was at the meeting.
And
I can't say that it happened or it didn't happen.
And these persons were identified. All right. Okay, thank you.
So the statutory bodies and they have to submit their accounting date as to when they're supposed to.
Yes, it must be submitted 6 months after the end of the financial year.
And the financial year being.
Most of them are January to December. Okay. And then the auditors have 3 months to audit the statements and present it to the minister responsible, who within 7 days has to lay the report in the parliament. Then it becomes public information.
I just wanted to ask a question regarding the issue that is just raised there concerning the bullying and the intimidation of public servants. I get the point that it was second-hand information. Understand that. Can you speak towards the fact, the concern that public servants would be having a difficult period functioning because of the interference government officials administer to the work? And the big part of the question is, I know in the constitution reform, there will be provisions for public servants to be publicly or identify the political position publicly. That can open the door for all kinds of same thing that we talk about here. If you do not call the administration in office, we can be intimidated, we can be done all kinds of things and so on. I'm asking them if there was in your constitutional party, if there was direct relationship, pose changes to bring in political organizations and so on. Is there a direct relationship with the way in which we are now seeing, like example, what happened to those persons that you mentioned? Do you see any relationship in that area? And if you do, how should you really do that?
So there is always a relationship, because at the end of the day, what you are doing is to allow public officers to perform the duties that they have to perform without feeling that they're doing simply what the politician wants them to do. A simple example. I'm not saying that this has happened, I want to be clear. But one of the issues concerning the transfer, one of the allegations surrounding the transfer of of Mr. Graham is that he disagreed or he decided in some situation that a shipment of soil should not come into Grenada because he saw in there what he considered to be substances that were not suited, whatever. In other words, phytosanitary standards would have been breached if it allowed. Yeah. If he takes that decision not to allow it in the exercise of his responsibility as a chief pest control officer, open to a minister of government or anybody else, even at the highest level, the prime minister, to simply say, let it in. He's experienced, he has 20-something or 30-something years doing it. He knows the rules, he knows the standards, and he has to be able to exercise that responsibility without feeling that if he does what he's supposed to do, he's going to be punished somehow. Just saying, wherever you have that situation where those in authority as the policymakers can simply override the requirements and standards that are set by rules that are established by conventions, by law, then what you're going to have is public servants will feel that it's a waste of their time, that somebody is going to do what they want anyway. They may throw their hands up in despair and frustration, and the standards that you need to maintain will not be observed. What is interesting, and all that you're saying is, if those things are in fact happening, first of all, ask the ministers to look into it. Themselves are responsible if that is happening, to refrain from doing it, because the consequences is not just about the exercise of authority, it's about what are going to be the implications for the country as a whole. With respect to what can be done about it, I could not really tell you what can be done about it in a simple way. There's no silver bullet to solve this problem. Yeah. What you're talking about really is the honor and integrity of those who are charged with running the ship of state. Because ultimately, laws are there, the laws are there, the systems are there, the institutions are there. The checks and balances are built into the system to ensure governance on the part of those responsible, that before you become a minister, for example, you're required to take an oath saying that you will uphold the constitution and the laws of the country. And if they do, sometimes it is not so easy. That's one of the reasons why it might have been useful to consider the provision that was advocated by several of the organizations around the country, and that was recommended by the CRAC, Constitutional Reform Advisory Committee, to the government, which the government rejected out of hand, that there should be, in our constitutional arrangement, a provision that if a particular member of parliament were to behave in a way that was standard, that was dragging the office into disrepute, that was unbecoming of a member of parliament, then there should be a provision in the constitution to arrange for a recall or a vote on a recall of that member. So these are all checks and balances. At the end of the day, democracy will not resist that.
Thank you. If there are no further questions, this will bring us to the end. Thank you very much, and look forward for next week. Thank you.
We should just remind you, I'm sorry I did not do so before you turn off your cameras. I just want to remind you of our thank you very much. Before we turn off, I just want to kindly remind you of our policy rollout, our new policy agenda for Grenada, Caribbean, and Martinique on Thursday, the 22nd of September. 2016 at the Grenada Trade Center. It's at 6:30 in the evening. And we will be asking you, members of the media, to please assist us in getting the word out. We want to invite as many Grenadians as the Trade Center can accommodate, somewhere between 15 and 1,700 persons. We want to ask as many persons as possible to be there. We consider it a very historic event because this is the first time that any political party is actually laying out for the development of the country. Thank you very much.